Anyone who doesn't know and has been here for the whole of the meeting, I've been described as coming from Liverpool once or twice.
Was that you?
Unprepared totally. I haven't looked at any literature or anything. I am sponsoring at the minute. At the weekend just gone, I'm a bit emotional actually. I don't know why. Probably blood sugars, yeah. Or just being in a room with people who are talking about actually the heartbeat of NA, isn't it? When one addict's helping another. And it's quite relevant because I've been on the phone with some messages today. I've got a sponsee and his partner's water's broke at 2:00 in the morning and he's in loads of fear and he's reaching out to me like I've got the answers. And I've got experience of that, but I was using through the birth of my kids. I was like taking the gas in turns with my wife. It was a long day. We were there for ages. And I just said to him, Your experience, what 1 million men since time began have experienced. You're not alone, and just call me if you need to. So that's just the basic things, isn't it? In that moment, no thanks, I couldn't really like I'm not the type of sponsor who then turns around, oh yeah, you're practicing step so and so there and all that. Like, which if I stop and think about it, I might be able to come up with something. But no, personal experience is a lot of what it is, and I have grown because I was shown by a loving man how to give my time, and last weekend, the privilege of sitting with a guy and he read out his step 12 with me. He'd come to the end of his formal working of the steps, and then this week I sat with another guy that sounds like I do a bit of sponsorship, doesn't it? And we're at the beginning of the journey, and he read out his letter to me of why he's asking me to be a sponsor, and he's doing his 30 days of calling, his gratitude, and his practicing. All the stuff I was shown by a sponsor, but is in the Just for Today chapter in the Narcotics Anonymous basic text. Because the basic text is the thing that I've leaned on in my recovery, and has supported me, done basic text study workshops and all that, and so my first experience of sponsorship was thinking, you know, I need someone to show me how to get through this. I've got stories and things to tell around this. I'll try and skip. How long have I got, James?
15 minutes.
15 minutes. Because I when I speak, I do go down rabbit holes and things like that. I just like allow it to take me, and I thought I was going to this meeting over the road at Euston on a Sunday morning because it was a step meeting, and I had this little bugbear in terms of I'd had some run-ins with people who are quite militant with this stuff, and they a lot of the time that they seem to have this particular way of being, and they kept talking about spiritual principles, honesty, open mind and willingness. And I asked them some questions, and they didn't seem to fucking know the answers, is the thing. And I was desperate. I didn't know I was desperate, but I was. I didn't go around saying I've got the gift of desperation, which was quite common at that time in fellowship. People would share it quite often. I never said that. On retrospect, if you look at the actions and what I did, they were the actions of a man who was scared, desperate, and wanting something different. I'd been terrified by a rock bottom, and I'm not a stupid man. I'm really not. I'm always looking for angles and shortcuts and that. And I thought, right, a sponsor. What kind of sponsor do I need? I'm not the type that I need this, that, and the other. I thought, I listened to this guy share where he'd been doing it wrong for 10 years, but he'd been doing it right for the last 4 years, and I thought, that's the man. That's the man that I need. Somebody who's made all the mistakes, got in all the trouble, knows all the pitfalls that can steer me away from them. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. And And I thought, because I'd had these run-ins with people, and I was of the character who thought, this is my last chance, this. I was, at the end of my using, the obsession and compulsion took the form of suicide. It wasn't about drugs, that's where it was. It was only a brief period, but I was just about to be signed into a suicide risk respite home. And I'm somebody who's quite, I come from a place where we talk about mental illness and instability and all these things. We've all got it, but we don't mention it because it's weakness. So I'm not in a place to talk about my weakness. And I've recovered somewhat from that, but I'm still shaky and vulnerable inside, aren't I? You know what I mean? I'd get embarrassed, like going up to people, thanking them for their chair because the chair had touched me. So I was in a really vulnerable and frightened place. And so I've picked this guy. And I'll tell you the story. You know, he shared some, like, which he does a lot, some stuff that sounds ridiculous the first time you hear it. That's got no relevance. and it was about playing pool. When you're in the game playing pool, other people not playing it can see a better way to go because they're not in it. And I thought, I love playing pool. I spent so many hours playing pool. I thought, I relate to this guy. And as I said, he'd made all the mistakes. And I remember going, because all of recovery for me has just been a succession of fearful events that are, like, when you look back on them, they were tiny, inconsequential, just a little bit uncomfortable, but when I was facing them, they were massive. And just that thought, I'm going to go and ask someone to sponsor me. What if he says no? What if he says no? Recovery's been like that, isn't it? Put your hand up for the first bit of service. What if somebody else puts their hand up? What if they don't want me? So recovery's all these little small fears to overcome that start building me character. And I asked him, and he said no. I was like, what? I didn't like him anyway. And but then he said, you're in treatment. I can't help manage you with managing your life. You've got a program there. They may be in conflict. So ask me again when you've finished. And I got involved with the meeting and I started following him round and he was telling me, well, you need to do this service, that. And I was like, okay. And I just said everything and I did everything. And then I finished treatment and I asked him again. I said, but now I'd already been following him and coming here and doing readings and when he was on the committee and all that stuff. And he said, yeah, and we embarked on that journey. And he just said to me quite simply, well, one of the things he said was, I was hoping you'd have forgot or asked someone else. But I never. And then, and so we embarked on the journey, and I discovered along that path why I was an addict. You know, for me, I discovered it, and I know you can like fake it to make it and lean on other people's understandings, but I'm not somebody who's come into Narcotics Anonymous and said, yeah, I believe, yeah. I've questioned it all along the way. The very first reading, who is an addict? Most of us do not have to think twice. And I spent months going, most of us. I might have a way out here. No one's had realised it was abstinence. I thought, I don't know about that. There's certain drugs I think I can handle. He educated me. You know, it's my reaction to drugs that makes me an addict. He taught me, walked through the basic text with me. And so I learned about what I suffer from. And I learned, before I learned what I suffer from, what to do about it. I was already practicing the solution before I had full understanding of the problem. Saying I'm an addict is one thing, knowing what the disease of addiction is and how it manifests is completely different ball game. Yeah, these are the life-changing things that you get from sponsorship that I might not have found on my own. So I had to think about spiritual principles, I still have. We've set a meeting up in Waterloo on a Saturday, it'll be on tomorrow, 3:30 till 5 o'clock. You're all welcome. And it's 12 basic principles from the basic text in step 12. It's been there since the 80s or something, but there's no meetings on it. It's a good meeting, isn't it, James?
It's a great meeting.
It's a good meeting.
Get there.
Heavy's unsure. It's like the meeting, but the literature, I don't know. It's not proper approved. And so the journey about the principles and that, and why I'm sharing this is because I remember we were sitting reading step 3, and I said, yeah, I found faith here. And he went, no, you don't get faith till step 7. I was like, well, maybe you didn't. I says, but I fucking did. I says, I had blind faith then. And the sponsorship relationship, and where I don't follow is that he held me to follow a path to find, and told me very early on, my understanding is no good for you. Innit? You need to develop your own understanding. And I say it to my sponsees, hey, 3 o'clock in the morning, like when you're having a baby, I ain't answering the phone. My phone's on silent at night so I can sleep. It says, I'm not your higher power. I'm somebody with experience of working through the steps, and that's been repeated again and again and again by strong people in Narcotics Anonymous. I said, when I meet with a sponsee and we do this conversation, I tell them beforehand how I do it and what's on offer, and ask them to make a decision. And then if they say they want it, I say, well, there's only condition I'm putting on this is that you have to give this to somebody else. That's the deal. All I'm doing is teaching you how to sponsor somebody else. That's all I'm doing, nothing else. And like has been shared here, these experiences I've had in the past couple of weeks is, I come alive. I live all the stuff that seemed fanciful in this book when I was first started reading it, that I thought, that's not available for me, that stuff. And all of it has been given to me in the relationship of sponsorship and sponsoring. On the thing of, I've got another sponsor, he celebrated 15 years this week, and he's coming up on Sunday and all that. And I remember, because I'm not even 18 months cleaner than him, but I'd got to the end of the steps and he asked me, and my sponsor said, well, you're available, so go through the process. And I leaned into my sponsor for that first one especially to, what did we do again? What did we do again? What did we do again? He went, you do this. Yeah. And I remember we were just walking down the road, and this guy turned around and he went to me, you're doing this for free? I'm like, it's like, how do you quantify love? Do you know what I mean? It's time, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Giving your time freely. And I don't do it like I feel like there's an obligation, although there is an underlying obligation to this for me to give it away. I said, me and my sponsor differ on a few things. I'm of the opinion that, like, I've got this guy a minute with different cultures, he's got some mental health stuff and that. There's some right challenges there. But I've got availability because this other dickhead fucking finished, didn't he? Created the space when this one asked me. So I'm like going, I'm available, aren't I? So this is just the way I work it. And I ran it by my sponsor, and he says, you can't say no because there's enough differences there. And I went, I can't. That's just because I've learned how to do this in the fashion of, I'll just throw this one in on the end. The essence of me is the same person who walked in here. The essence of me. No, because I was scared of losing the essence of who I was. The 12 steps have just, like, washed off all the things that were making my life difficult and making me hate myself and all that stuff. And the essence of me said, you got to give this guy a chance. And then he weren't performing well in his qualification period. And instead of like saying about letting go, I said, you got to book your ideas up because I'm showing him my step 12. Look, this is not my thinking. You don't want my programme. I know when you hear people say my programme was sticking needles in me groin and running out of back doors with people's money. That was my programme. There is no my programme, there's the programme. That in my thing, and that's what I work it with him. And I went on a fucking tangent. I had a different point to make, and I've completely lost it now. And So I'll just wrap it up with the fact that, like, I'm still on that journey. When people ask me I'm available, I feel it's a sense of duty and my responsibility and expression of my gratitude and willingness to say yes. And it's such an honour and a privilege. It is. It's stuff like, I think you just said it then, people with everything, they don't have this. And it keeps me in the centre of the boat, and I keep learning, because the literature doesn't change, but I do. Up and down, not linear, up and fucking down. I got to keep going, haven't I? So thank you for unexpectedly asking me, James, and letting me share.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move. Sorry, Lynette, we're going to have to move quickly. So we've looked at meetings, we've looked at getting clean. Now we're going to look at service, right? Service. Okay, this is all in the What Can I Do chapter. It says, we learn that service to others will get us out of ourselves. Our work can begin by simple actions, emptying ashtrays, making coffee, cleaning up, setting up for the meeting, opening the door, chairing a meeting, and passing out literature. Doing these things help us to feel part of the fellowship. Now, when I first got introduced to service from them boring people that were all doing that, right? They really pissed me off because they said that I needed to arrive early and make coffee. Right? Arrive early, make coffee, make tea. You know, they got me involved in public information. I didn't even understand what public information was. But they told me I need to give out these little pamphlets to doctors and different places. You know, and I didn't understand because I'm the one that's just finished using. I'm the one who needs the help. Why are they getting me to do all of this stuff? Right? But when I turned up at my home group and everyone was in conversation about what they've been doing that week, I was proud to say I've been doing service of public information. I didn't even know what public information meant. Do you know what I mean? But it made me feel a part of something. I also suffer from, in the same chapter, it talks about self-obsession is the core of my disease. It's the absolute core. And I remember understanding that to the core of my disease, it's all about Aaron. What do you think about me? What's Aaron going to get? How much? What if Aaron doesn't get? You know, what does Aaron look like? What do they think of me? It's just me. It's the core of my disease.
We love you.
Right? Thank you, Junior. Right? So service, what it does, it gets me away from that core. Right? When I realized the concept of reaching out and helping and doing things for other people actually helps my disease, I started to get relief. Yeah. I even went to a place outside of the rooms that helped homeless people because I didn't know what to do in between the meetings. There was a place called there's a place in Weston-super-Mare where you just go and help the homeless. So in between meetings, I was helping the homeless. Not because I'm a great guy and I really want to help the homeless at that time. It wasn't because of that. It was because I realised that it got me out of the self-obsession. It got me out of that. So we learn to do service in the fellowship, and it mentions certain things. So I just want to throw it out there. What's your experience been like by learning the principle of being of service? What has it been like? Thank you. Over there.
Well, I do service for me.
Yeah.
And that's, because it makes me feel, as you said, it's got various advantages for me. And it's not so much, I don't, to be honest, I don't do it because it's a good thing to do. I do it because I want to stay clean. And, I'm very ruthless about staying clean, and that's really my motivation for it. And that sounds, sounds a bit selfish, but I don't honestly care. because it's, I've been clean for a long time, and it's partly thanks to doing it. And I don't really want to go to meetings, not really. I'd much rather sit and watch TV. And if I have a commitment to the meeting, then I will go.
Yeah.
And I feel like a fucking child with a credit card, to be honest. And I've been clean 29 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's just, it's really important. And the other thing is, if you do service for yourself, then you don't start getting shitty with people who don't do it. If people don't do it, they don't get the benefits from it. And that's very much their problem. It's not my problem. And I don't have to worry about that or get resentful towards other people who don't do it. If I do it for me, then that's fine. Yeah,
thank you. Anybody else on this side? I think there's someone right at the very back.
Yeah, hi, George.
All right, George.
My experience, so I've got a team commitment at the moment, and I also do, I'm co-secretary on a rugby league, and I know when I first came into these rooms, I couldn't open my mouth because I'd been isolated for so long. I had no communication skills. And now from making the teams, and even if there's a clash of personalities with someone in that room, it makes me have to accept it, and I've still got to give back. And also, and the co-secretary, it's really good for my confidence and my social skills. And even if I fuck up or I do something wrong, it's still really good for me to grow and learn from it. And just get chucked in the deep end. I'm really loving it. So
thank you.
It's good to give back, and it's good for me. So win-win.
Thank you. I just want to quickly say something before we move on quickly, We ain't got much long to go, probably 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll shut it down. But I remember calling my sponsor once. I was on the beach, and I'd been struggling previously. And I was on the beach, and I called him, and he said, "How are you getting along?" And then he said, I said, "I'm getting along fantastic. I feel like I'm spiritually centered. I feel like I'm grounded. I feel the power of I feel my higher power. I feel God. I feel." And he said, "Is anyone around you?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, that's probably why." Right? When it's true, I can be as spiritual as you like when there's no one there. When I'm in contact with others is when you see the strength of my program. When I'm challenged with people who've got different opinions, to me, that's when you see the strength of my program. Do you get what I mean? Different personalities. We practice the principles in all of our affairs. But if I'm sitting down there and I ain't got no affairs, I'm just looking at the sea and no one's around me, of course I'm going to be on top of the world. Do you know what I mean? So we learn, we learn so much. Doing service is multi-layered. I don't think there's one thing we can say we do service for. It's multi-layered, while we do service. Okay, so sponsorship. We have found it helpful to have a sponsor and to use this sponsor. Sponsorship is a two-way street. It helps the newcomer and the sponsor. Right? So has anyone got experience with sponsorship and that two-way street? We've got any sponsors in the room? There you go. Anyone?
Him again. Me again. Again, it's really important that I sponsor people to remind me of who I am. Because I will forget who I am, because this disease will make me think that I'm some other person that's almost like me but not quite like me. Who can use? That's where I go, and this is an incurable illness. So I really need to do that. And I don't consider it to be really a favour to anybody, but I have to be asked to do it. I don't go around offering to do it because I'm not crazy. But it's a fantastic thing to do. I don't necessarily need each individual, but I need those relationships. I think it helps me to stay in recovery, and I need to stay here because if I leave NA gets along fine, and I'll fucking use sooner or later. That's the truth of it. That's the relationship as I see it. So I need to do that.
Thank you. Anyone else experienced with sponsorship? Gavin? All right, Gavin.
I've got a sponsor today. I've got Clay. I've been sponsored this since. I think it's about accountability. I need to be accountable to someone. It's the two-way thing. But if I'm accountable to someone, I'll get my ideas. I don't care how clean you are. I have to run through any major decision in my life with a sponsor or with another addict. Because I've got a disease that serves me life. And I get bright ideas, especially when I clean up, I have a bright idea every day. And I had a sponsor who said to me, if you get any bright ideas, phone me up. I just phoned him up with a bright idea, and he was an old man Scotsman, and he said, swear at me, call me an idiot, put phone. And then next day I said, I'm thinking of doing this, and he say, you are there, I don't swear, but he said, swear at me, put the phone down. And it stopped me from acting out in silly ways. And then one day I said to him, Rob, I'm thinking of doing this. He went, great idea. And he put the phone down. So I don't always get bad ideas, but I need a sponsor to check out when I get when I do get a bad idea. And it's about accountability. I'm honest with my sponsor. You know, and I have to be because I start believing my life. You know, we are each other's eyes and ears, as this is says, and I need other people to tell me that my thinking is wrong. You know, and I'll say this quickly, when Adam got clean on his first day, you don't remember this, I went up to him and I said to him, our sponsor, and he went, turn it in, mate, and he ran off. And then 9 years later, I wanted to go through the step working guide, and then Aaron ended up being my sponsor. and I think, you know, that's how things turn around. I didn't use, but yeah, the person I asked to sponsor who went away ended up being my sponsor. But without a sponsor, I've sponsored this, and I believe my own thinking. I act out, I do silly things, and it's a two-way thing. You know, you can challenge your own sponsor.
Yes.
And say, look, what are you doing here?
Yes.
I had a sponsor once who was like 38, something years ago, and said to me, if you ever see me do anything stupid, point it out to me, don't let me die on the defence.
Yes.
And so it's a two-way thing.
Yes, absolutely. So just to touch quickly on the two-way street thing, me and my sponsor have fallen out numerous of times. My sponsor's main thing, our relation is based on him taking me through the 12 steps. And we go through the 12 steps together. But we don't always see eye to eye on everything. And it's actually healthy that I get to a point where I've got a voice and I may see things differently to him. That's okay. I still respect him and I still understand the line. He's my sponsor. Do you understand? Junior, just quickly before we move on.
So we only keep what we've got by giving it away.
Yes.
And I think this is fundamental in what sponsorship's really about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if I don't have sponsees to keep my experience too, I'm 55, I'll forget. I'll forget your name. You're saying, tell me your name 3 minutes ago, I'll see you down the road and I'll call you sir. Because my mind's futile. Is it? Something like that. But for me, sponsorship, you know, my sponsees tell me they benefit from our interaction. And, you know, Junior, you're this, no, stop. It's not me, it's God. Just keep that straight. Any change that you make in your life is your actions, not mine. I'm just here. You know. And what they don't know is, especially when we've got sponsees that are still going through the manifestations, they're reminding me of the pain that I experienced when I was in their shoes doing what they're doing. So the identification and the reminder that I get from my sponsees tells me that I'm still doing the right thing. You know, so it's no matter where I go with it, it's either a figure of 8 infinity or it's a circle of information that reminds me that I'm still in the right place and the fortress of Narcotics Anonymous is a safe place. And the most important thing, Gavin touched on it, but it's also my first experience of someone really having their investment in my confidentiality. Because I was talking about stuff that would either give me a life sentence. There was some stuff that I'd never told anybody, and it was really difficult for me to find myself trusting another human being to do that. And in truth, the disease beat me into a place of submission anyway, and then I was like, you know what, you'll do. She'll do, because I wasn't gear and I've got to get rid of it. And my experience is I've never had my confidence breached in Narcotics Anonymous, and I do not breach my sponsee's confidentiality.
Good. All right, thank you, Junior. Yeah, so, you know, sponsorship, two-way street. It's the heartbeat of our program. You know, sponsorship is highly important. So we're gonna close. But before we close, there's a couple of things that I wanna touch on. Right, is that the basic text. The basic text is written by our fellowship. This is hundreds, thousands of people's experience. Right? The most effective way for this text for me to come alive is when I sit with another person and read it. When we break it down together and we share experience together, my experience is this starts to come alive. This is not a reading book or a story. It's a basic text. So a textbook is something which we study. That's what it is. This book also is not for everybody. It's not. I just want to touch quickly here what it says here around our book, right? In our symbol, it says, the simplicity is the key to our symbol. It imitates the simplicity of our fellowship. All sorts of occult and esoteric connotations can be found in the simple outlines. Now, the word esoteric Looked it up in the dictionary. Was it, Mikey? Okay. It is intended for or only likely to be understood by only a small number of people with specialized knowledge or interest. So in short, that means that people like us will really only understand this. Right? Now, I had a friend, you know Terry. You had a friend, Terry C, his name is. Right? And when we was in treatment, he really wanted a girlfriend, yeah? Really wanted a girlfriend. That was his whole mission, to find a girl. So he managed to get this girl. He was really buzzing about this relationship. He said, this is, I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what they say about 1 year you need. I don't care what anyone says, right? I found this girl. It's going to be me and her, right? Really buzzing. He comes back in the meeting the next day and he looks tearful. I said to him, Terry, what's the matter, bruv? He said, I gave her this book to read. She read Who is an Addict, and now she won't talk to me. You know what I mean? Because the book is not made for everybody. It's made for us. That's what it's made for us. You know what I mean? So, I'm going to close. But, the What Can I Do chapter, if you've got a sponsee, or even if you've been around for a while and you just want to rejig your program, has got everything that we need. Meetings, sponsorship, steps, service, giving it away. It's got everything which we need, in order to get this thing which we call recovery. So thanks. I'm going to leave it there.